I was the product. I am the business. So what do you do when you have this sort of company? Even though I'm considered this athlete, I was an entity, and I need to put all of the best resources into what it took to be able to live up to my goals, my aspirations of where I wanted to be. The mental side, there were a lot of things that I could fall back on, which became a really strong part of the foundation and my belief was certain people in my circle. And if I have the right people in my circle that are giving me good advice, then I can feel a lot more comfortable and confident that what I'm doing it the right way.
What does it really take to perform at a high level without running yourself into the ground? Today, we are here with Major League Baseball legend Cole Hamels to explore the mental and emotional side of success. I am your host, Laura Coons, and this is Prevention Pioneers, a show where we talk with leaders about what it means to lead with well-being at the center. I am also joined by my co-host, Mike Holloway, also my business partner and the Spirence president, Mike and Cole. It's a pleasure to have you both here today.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Cole, you spent nearly 2 decades performing under extremely high pressure. What advice would you have for other professionals who are pursuing long-term sustained success and experiencing that same pressure?
I think a lot really falls down to understanding realistic and unrealistic expectations and what your whole mentality and goals are for the position that you're in. And, for something as myself, I knew what I wanted to do. It was trying to figure out how to be able to accomplish it. And setting up a goal for longevity, what does that really take? For me, I had to develop a foundation. And in that foundation were insight from lessons that I was learning from my failures and some of the successes, or going to mentors and trying to learn how to be successful before you fail because they already did it before me. There's a lot to take from books and that sort of insight. But again, everything really falls down to what my belief, my thoughts, and my feelings were going to be and how I approached the realistic goal that I had in mind.
Well, and with that, I wanted to talk about failure. So what are your thoughts on failure? How did you cope? I mean, in sports, that just comes with the territory. I think in all business, that comes with the territory. So what was that process like for you, learning to cope with failure? When did you start to recognize that as a part of your profession? And just talk to us about that.
Everything that we do in life is going to revolve around success and failure. And there's something to be said that you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that is what failure really is. It's a lesson. It's risking it all to try something to see if it works. And if it doesn't necessarily work, how do you make those adjustments? A lot of us, I think in general, don't like to take steps backwards when we're trying to go forward. But really, at the end of the day, in order to go further along, you're going to take steps backwards. And that's where you reconvene. You have to digest what you put yourself into. And now, what are my next steps in either acting upon a decision or a sort of loss? How am I going to do it differently? The next time that it comes, because it will, where am I going to make that move that's not going to put me back into the situation? So you have to understand that failure is one of the best lessons, and to embrace it. And that's what I was able to do, was knowing that in a sport, the people that are the most successful are the ones that probably risked it more than anybody and failed more than anybody. They just never gave up. And that then falls into, why did they never give up? And they had strong core beliefs. They had their thoughts and their feelings match their behaviors, and it was for the better. And they didn't really shy away from the embarrassment, the sort of result that didn't favor them daily. They just kept pursuing the end goal, which was, I'm going to get to this area, which is defined as success, but I'm going to go through all of these sort of levels of failure to get there.
Cole, you knew you always had the talent, right? What's that one glaring moment of failure early in your career that helped you mentally along the way?
So for me, I think it was an injury. And I knew I was getting the talent when I was young. I was competing at a very high level with older players. And when you start to be able to play up to guys that you look at as being older, wiser, stronger, more experienced, and I was able to not only match their level of play, but I was having success. So now you feel like you're one of them. You're in that group, and you start to see, wait, I can now separate myself even further away from them. I've now gone beyond even their level. I'm getting better. And I was getting to that point where now that confidence now comes in, and now you have the expectation, and you're just rolling and you're moving forward and you're moving higher and higher and higher. I then had a massive injury that completely sort of set me off the sort of path that I thought I was going towards. And with that injury, I broke my arm playing. You go to a doctor. I was very lucky with the health plan that I had. I was able to go to a sports specialist doctor that was in the actual MLB. But you then have to listen to this expert, and from his experience, he's used to dealing with these injuries. He's around this environment. And the first question he said after looking at my injury was, "Do you play another sport?" And I'm like, what are you talking about? What? No, this is my sport.
Well, yeah, surf.
Yeah, sure. Let me go sign up for something else now and start all the way back over. I didn't understand that. I said, no, this is my sport. This is what I'm going to do. I am setting myself up to be very successful as a baseball player. And he just looked at it, he goes, nobody's ever come back from this injury. And that, I think from anybody, when you hear those words, nobody, that can set you off on the complete opposite path. And you can go into some very dark areas. But that right there was the challenge. And I think that I knew if I could get through this sort of moment in time, I could be the first. And so what really scares people or anybody when they might be the first? There's not a lot to fall back on if you're going to be the first, but that's also the challenge that you have to look at and really engage in and believe in. And that's when I changed my thoughts, and you have to make adjustments. And then that was now my new goal. And that was my new aspiration, was to be the first at not only proving somebody wrong, but that I could do something that might create another path for others.
Thank God it worked out, because we've played a lot of golf together, and that certainly wouldn't have been.
It's not working too well over there in that area.
Hit the ball a long way. But Cole, talk to us a little bit about that, right? So I've known you for 14 years now. Our friendship has just been phenomenal, and I've looked up to you in many ways, especially with your career, right? Obviously, your success speaks for itself, but the way you prepared for that success. I think we talk in mental health a lot about mind, body, and spirit, right? You're obviously a very spiritual man, took care of your body like nobody else. And I don't know how many people in pro sports really do that. I mean, I think you should take a minute and tell us a little bit about, like, you treated your body like almost like a cost of goods sold, if you will. Like, you invested in it, right? You had massage therapists, acupuncturists, and balance folks. So we could talk a little bit about that, but I want you to hit on what'd you do for your mental health? What'd you do for your mind during all these challenges?
And you hit on it, Mike, I had to treat my job, this career, as I was the product. I am the business. So what do you do when you have this sort of company? Even though I'm considered this athlete, I was an entity, and I needed to put all of the best resources into what it took to be able to, I guess, live up to my goals, my aspirations of where I wanted to be. The mental side, there were a lot of things that I could fall back on, which became a really strong part of the foundation. And my belief was certain people in my circle. And if I have the right people in my circle that are giving me good advice through knowledge from books, through experiences themselves, then I can feel a lot more comfortable and confident that what I'm doing, I'm doing it the right way. And I could handle myself if it didn't necessarily work out one day, 1 month, or 1 year. I was still going to continue to try and still believe that I'm always one good decision, one good little moment from taking off. There's a saying in baseball that you have to constantly react to what's happening around you, and your decisions are based off of a lot of what's kind of going on, but to never panic and to know that if you want to simplify anything, you're always one pitch away from getting yourself out of trouble. And we look at a game of baseball, it's a 2.5, 3 hour game. You watch these pitchers, they're going to throw hundreds of pitches, hitters are there's a lot of moving parts. But to then simplify it into this one little saying that I always had when chaos would happen, the crowd gets louder, you're in opposing bigger situations, playoff runs, I'm always one pitch away from getting myself out of a jam. And in doing that, I fell back on a lot of books. John Wooden, it was a book. He has a couple books that was introduced to me when I was about 18 years old in the locker room. Dickie Knowles, he was a really good mentor, and he handed me that book, and I breezed right through it. Great book, read it. Read a couple of them by John Wooden. Just simple tasks before you even get to the competitive environment. Some of the things that you do before you even step onto the court. Very simple stuff that go a lot further and help kind of protect you and create confidence. Another one that was then I was introduced to, it was actually after a season I was struggling in 2009, was The Mental ABCs of Baseball by Harvey Dorfman. And I mean, that's a simple book, ABCs. So sometimes you go all the way back to when we're learning, we all had to, get up every single time we fall. We always had to crawl before we walked. You're walking before you run. Very simple. And I think that's sometimes if you can go back to that with all of the chaos and the expectations as it is being an adult, there's a lot of moving parts. If we can slowly simplify a few of them, I think things just start to fall in place more.
Yeah. Let's go back to 2009 for a second. I find that as interesting. Obviously Laura, 2008 World Series MVP for the Philadelphia Phillies. Off.
Mike made me aware. Yeah, I'm not a Philly. I'm not a Phillies fan. Yeah. Cincinnati Reds, but go.
Hey,
go
that's big red machine.
Yeah.
So, obviously coming off a career year, right? Top of your game, all the glory. You're going into a 2009 season, probably with the best pitching staff of all in Major League Baseball. You said you started reading a book, ABCs of Baseball, or whatever it may be. What would you, looking back, right? And I'm not saying you wish to go backwards, because we all learn from, everything we do. But if you were to go back in time, what would you do differently to prepare for that 2009 season? Was it a preparation thing, Cole, or was it more of just really tough to do what you do every day and really tough to copy that 2008 year?
So I think two things happened was when you're finally so successful, you're now finally on the map. And now everybody's aware. And now everybody's starting to study you, and everybody wants to beat you because you always want to beat the best. In competition, you want to go up against the best and you want to beat the best. So what does that take? I think now more players, more teams were focused on me, and I wasn't going to just slide by. So now you have probably more preparation, steeper competition. And then at the same point, I started to have that sort of expectation on myself is this is who I am. Now I've got to maintain it. I didn't realize though, in order to continue to evolve, you have to adjust. And when you're facing guys that are now going to pay attention to you a little bit more, they did their homework, they studied a little bit more, they anticipate, and now they're going to either completely understand what you have, or they're going to guess a little bit. They're just not going to let you slide by. And that was where 2009 was a big lesson, where I finally realized what guys were actually trying to do against me. And I could see it and I could feel it. And I had to now make the adjustment of, if I want to continue to be one of the best, I have to add. And adding for me was adding more pitches and studying a little bit more to hitters' strengths and weaknesses. Because sometimes you can get to a point where you're like, I'm so good, I'm so confident, that it can become arrogance. And you think you're just going to be able to walk through situations. And that doesn't always happen. It's always going to catch up to you. And I think 2009, it caught up to me. But that was the next level, the next step for me to raise my game. And I added more pitches. I started studying more. I probably did, the physical toll probably took a little bit. I almost had about 250 innings, which back then was very rare. Now you don't even hear about that, but I know you can go back 30, 40 years ago and guys did that like it was nothing. But it's just the stages of the game and how things have changed. But I was at a point where I was young, and the wear and tear now on your body, oh shoot, now I got to put a little bit more time into healing, resting, and strengthening what I did. So I always look at it as it was a test, and I was up for the challenge, and I increased. Unfortunately, it would have been great to be able to get another World Series championship that year because we went to the World Series. But for all of us, sometimes in our career, the arc is learning lessons, and they don't always match up with a whole team of 26 guys. Our learning arc don't always match up.
Mental health challenges make up 10% of workplace healthcare costs and lead to billions in lost productivity each year. Traditional employee assistance programs were created to help address these challenges. However, they are often underutilized because they are focused on reactive solutions instead of proactive solutions. That's why we created Spirence, to prioritize mental wellness in order to prevent mental illness. Spirence's science-backed platform offers an extensive and continually growing library of mental health courses, crafted and delivered by clinical experts. The platform also features live events, interactive coaching, on-demand support tools, and dedicated support for managers. Our approach results in over 800% higher utilization than traditional EAPs. The world is moving towards proactive care, and Spirence is leading the way. Spirence, the future of workplace mental health.
I think your points about really leaning into the challenge and just getting comfortable being uncomfortable is extremely helpful for any leader, professional. It's just part of success. And a few things you mentioned made me think about something I read. You're self-proclaimed perfectionist.
Yeah.
So how has that been a superpower for you? And then how have you struggled because of that over the years?
It is because all of us, we want to set a bar and a standard for what to expect, what you want people to expect, and then what am I trying to work towards. If I can do everything right, then the expectation is it's perfect. But perfection in any sort of area, and especially sports, there's a lot of other variables that have to go right that you don't get to control. And perfectionism is more so you want to control the whole outcome 24/7, and it's not possible. And that is what I learned. In a sport, you have teammates, and in business, you have employees. It's a bigger team, and everybody has to kind of come together and do it all right at the exact same time. And the environment has to be perfect for it to work too, and it all falls together. And that's not always going to happen. So I think if I could break it down into, I have this expectation, which is great because it helps my work ethic to never give up. If I can be around, or people can be around me and they can feed off that and see it, maybe I help them a little bit more be better. So now we're coming together as a group and we're stronger and we're more prepared. And then we can now see what happens when we go into, whatever task that we have to go. And I just feel like that was what I wanted to do, was try to pull everybody up to a level that I expected in myself. How can I get the most out of everybody? And then now it's now in my hands to sort of control the outcome, but you don't get to control the whole outcome. And I think that's what was the learning lesson for me, was I can't control everything.
Yeah, but pursuing that culture of excellence. I mean, who does that sound like? My co-host over here.
Yeah,
That's my co-host over here as well. But
pursuing it is one thing. Achieving it is
exactly.
Realizing that we're human, and
Yes.
but it's fine to have that in your lens, I would say, though.
Yeah.
But take us inside the locker room for a second, right? We've talked about a lot. We've talked about obviously keeping your body healthy, learning from experiences. When you go in that locker room, what's the environment like with respect to vulnerability, right? So you're a human being and you've had a bad experience, or maybe you had 2 bad outings in a row, or one of your teammates is hitting poorly, right? Being a human being, we look at you guys as pro athletes, and are cursing at the TV when
Hey, I'm guilty too.
right?
Guilty.
I mean,
Under my breath.
but it's true. I mean, especially in Philadelphia. So
Brings it out in you.
It does. And you have this, you step onto this field and you're supposed to be the superhero to so many people, but you're still a human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got family, you got friends, you got feelings. You step into that locker room. What is it like with being able to be vulnerable with your teammates? Is that an environment that welcomes that?
I don't think it was as necessarily early on. It was a tough guy environment. You never showed your emotions because we're pros. We are the toughest. We're the best. We're the less than the 1% that made it all this far. We cannot show cracks. It's evolved. Now over probably the last 20 years, things have evolved, and there's been more openness. And I believe you always did have your sort of veteran guys that had that feel. And I think that's a talent, is a guy has good feel, good awareness in not just going right at you, bull in a china shop and trying to yell at you for what you did wrong and you need to correct it. But they take time to get to know you besides the situation, in seeing how they then can approach the situation. Where do you open up? Does it take you more time? Do you just kind of test it and just blurt out something that's completely off the wall and let them now bring it out? That was the best for us and myself, is I could get a different perspective from a coach, because a coach, that's his whole job. And they would come right to you and really try to approach it like, hey, what do you think was going on? And they, had a series of good questions on how to try to bring it out and coax it. And then they'd also point it out and go, hey, you can't do this. This is why you're here. You need to take accountability Now go fix it. Don't let it happen again. And then there's players that you do spend a lot more time with. And we were in the dugouts, we're in the clubhouse, we're in the outfield. There's a lot of time that can go by. I think as athletes, they think that we go to the field for 8 months and we're there every day for almost a 10-hour period. We're not doing stuff for 10 straight hours. I mean, it's humanly impossible. There's a lot more time to talk. And you could see it. Guys would just kind of stretch some questions and just try to get your feel. But if you allow somebody to feel comfortable enough in a space to open up, the talking, it just rolls off. And I think as humans and as men, we don't want to admit to that, but it does happen, and it happens more frequently than you think. Nowadays, we have therapists, psychologists that are in the actual clubhouse at all times. And I mean, for me, I'm like, whoa, this is great.
Yeah.
They don't always want to talk to you about baseball. They don't always want to talk to you about the sport. They want to talk to you about what's going on off the field, because that actually has a big impact. Your family, what dynamic you're going through has almost a further impact in how you're going to perform. And that was one of the best things that happened to me in 2006, which was my rookie year. You don't know if you're a big leaguer yet. You're there. I got called up. I had success for a couple games, and then I had a 2 to 3 game skid where I don't think I got out of the third inning. And I'm like, great, I'm getting sent down. I mean, this was short-lived, quick. I'm supposed to be the top prospect. I'm the guy that all these guys were waiting for me to come up and just win and be there and be accountable. I had this skid, and I was like, wow, that was quick. I guess I'm going to sent down. But I don't know what else I have to learn in AAA. I did very well there. Pat Gillick, the president and general manager at the time, came down, and it was in the lunchroom, and I'm sitting down eating, and I'm in my thoughts. And he comes and sits down, and he just asked me, he said, how's your family? How are you doing? What's you up to? Have your, how are your parents? Are they coming out to games? And I was like, wait, what? And start talking. And then near the end of the conversation, he goes, hey, you're our guy. You're here all year. Don't even worry about it. And it just went, whoa, all the weight lifted off my shoulders, all that pressure. And from that moment, I just took off. And it was somebody reassuring me that I knew was at an area that they could reassure me. He did it, and it clicked.
It's great leadership, right?
Yes.
Being able to see the talent in somebody, understand they're struggling. Don't kick a dog while it's down. Right? Let's build them up and give them the opportunity to go out and do what he knows how to do.
Acknowledge them as human too, not just there to perform and produce, but as a human being.
No, and I've always took that. And so that was the lesson at 22 years old. That's what I wanted to do as a teammate and as a veteran for younger guys. And that was how I sort of evolved for, the 15 more years that I played after that day. That was something that stuck with me, and how I could, be a good teammate and be a leader. And now in my position, what I can do for some of the guys still to this day.
Yeah. It's great to see ball clubs and obviously other professional sports going in that direction, right? Bringing that mentorship into the locker room, onto the team that can leverage years of experience.
Of course.
And help these younger kids come out of their shell and talk a little bit.
Yes.
Be a human, right?
Exactly, because there is a lot more than just the sport.
Yeah.
And, everybody always talks about the sport, or as an athlete, is a very short-lived career.
Yeah.
But you have to be a person a lot longer, and you're going to be living life and be in a lot different situations for a lot longer. But you can utilize what you learned in that moment, in that career, into furthering you into any other sort of venture that you want to do.
Yeah, and let's talk about your career transition, because wasn't that pretty recent? When did you retire?
Yeah, 2 years ago, right?
Okay.
Short retirement.
Okay. All right. So we've had time to process that. But what was that like for you? Did you have anxiety going into that transition? Were you ready? And then what's it been like since?
No, I absolutely had anxiety. I like to do things and keep doing things. I like to stay busy. I like to fill my day. Sometimes probably too much, which probably goes hand in hand with the perfectionism. I like to risk, and I think that's going to be where are the challenges? What can I say yes to? And I feel like if I say yes to almost everything that comes my way, and give it a period of time to see what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, I can then make better decisions going forward and going, all right, I wasn't very comfortable with that. I tried it. I think that's the case is you want to try something before you just say no. Because if you never try something, you don't know. And that might've been a really good path, an avenue that you could have blossomed into. And so that's what I did. The Phillies came to me, and it was very interesting when I retired, because I retired in San Diego as a Padre my last season. I think that day I go in to admit that I finally can't do it anymore. My body just can't handle it. I've got to walk away. And the GM at the time goes, "Do you want a job?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "We could use you as a specialist right now." I was like, "Whoa, can I just go home for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks? I mean, maybe a month, half the year." I was like, "I'll get back to you." But it was interesting because I was like, wow, I didn't know I then could hold that sort of value. I wasn't even ready to think that area, but I did. I went home for about a year and just realized I've got to do something. And the game of baseball is something that it's a strong suit. It's what I have the most experience in. So now what avenue in this sort of sport can I excel in? And then the Phillies came to me with ambassadorship, kind of mentorship, special assistant coaching. And then NBC said, "Do you want to try out broadcasting?" And I said, yes to all. And so that is what I've been figuring out about every other week. I come here for about 6 to 7 days. And Mike knows, the moment I wake up, I go and I am doing this part of the job to this part of the job. And I come back at 11:30 beat and I come right back to doing it all again. And, studying here and there. And I want to try to absorb as much as I possibly can to figure out then what I will be better at.
And do you have any advice for someone listening that might be considering a career transition or in the process of one? What's something that helped you really embrace that, lean into it?
Again, having good resources, a good circle, and having good friends, having good mentors, and then taking the experience that I've learned, where can I apply it in that sort of sector or idea of a job? Because you do want to take some sort of strengths to allow yourself to be vulnerable in a new experience, because you're not going to know it all. But will my strengths in that experience help me overcome some of the inexperience and the fear of unknowing? Where will it help, and will it help my path? And that's, will it add to my path, or will it completely take it so far away from my path? And I do understand I have this path that I'm going down, and I just want to widen that road. I don't want to stray too far off. I want to add to it.
And a lot about what we've talked about, I mean, you seem to have a very open mind. You seem very open to new things, open to challenges. Where is that from in your life? Were you made this way, or do you have any advice for people listening of how to be more flexible and open?
I know there's research, and I can't, say anything about it, but something about me being an oldest,
Yeah.
in a family, I have a brother and a sister, but I had to kind of adjust and try things first. I didn't have, a brother or sister to sort of fall back on that they could then lecture me, but then I could then turn and try to teach them. Going out, I know where I grew up, the environment that I grew up. I had really good friends or just experiences in general that I think helped mold me. And just challenges, accepting the challenge. If somebody said I couldn't do something, I wanted to figure out why I couldn't, and then to prove them wrong. And I think that might be it. It's the mentality that I wanted to prove people wrong. And just being comfortable if it didn't happen, I'm okay with saying I wasn't good enough for it, or I'll be accountable. And I think that was something I want to be accountable for my decisions, good or bad. And that right there, comes down to the sort of faith that I have. And then knowing that good things happen out of circumstances that you didn't predict.
Well, I got a little.
What's he doing over there? Cole, get him under control.
There we go. There we go.
This is a Cole Hamels bobblehead.
Oh, it's got a surfboard.
Yeah.
So you really are a surfer?
Well, it's a skateboard. This is a skateboard.
tried.
His nickname is Hollywood.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
I see that.
But this is when he was with the Cubs. So I got this, and then my wife got me made my bobblehead doll. Which is
Oh my God.
which is my Villanova shirt. And you know what I noticed? They were sitting next to each other on my mantle the other day, and I can't believe how much bigger I am.
Yeah. Yeah, they're so realistic.
I mean, for those of you know, Cole's like 6'4". I'm 5'10". And this is a little
Oh my
disproportionate.
gosh.
But I also looked, I noticed how you're looking up to me, Like,
Oh my gosh.
And it's like,
wow.
with your heart over your hand over your heart. And
Yep.
it really made me think. But no, in all honesty, I love these things. They're on my desk
gosh,
at home.
This is a trip.
Oh, it's hilarious.
That is
but,
good, though.
I want you to know,
that
Cole,
looks like Don Trump Jr.
Yeah, does it? Really?
Oh my gosh, it does.
But you
Yeah.
look
All right.
nothing like him.
We'll see. I want you to know that, you want to see the bobbleheads. All right. There we
Yeah.
go. That I look up to you in many ways, man.
Oh.
And your career, like I said, speaks for itself. But just the way you carry yourself, the way you respond to things, the way your humanity shines through your stardom, I think is a very, very, unique trait that you're teaching a lot of people how to be real, how to be authentic, right? And I think that is a crucial part of what we deal with in our society today. I think
Yes.
people get a preconceived notion of people, whether they're on TV or whether they hear something about somebody, but being able to sit down and talk to somebody and understand who they are and see through their actions is inspiring to me. So even though you're
thanks,
looking
Mike.
up to me in this bobblehead, I look up to you, and I want you to know that, buddy.
It's interesting too, as we risk it all. You see Mike and I out on the dance floor.
Oh gosh.
yeah.
Well, I've seen him.
We cut rug.
We do. We cut
Now I
rug.
gotta see you.
And, I mean, in our heads, we're the greatest Michael Jackson,
Oh yeah.
backup dancers you could ever think of. But
Do you guys feed off
We have
each
the-
other?
oh,
Is
yeah.
it like, I got to see this?
yeah.
Because I've seen him throw down.
yeah,
Not
ultimate confidence.
Yeah.
I don't even care
it.
what it looks like to everybody else.
Nobody okay.
I love it.
I know, but that's the best part. Dance like nobody's watching.
Yeah.
Being able to unplug for sure.
Yes.
And being comfortable in your own skin. I mean, it's like that's a lifelong journey for a lot of people.
But it is. And I think that's one thing I've always tried to learn. And I want to say it's probably from my parents in just really instilling me when you're trying to go through the growth and growing up, you want to be cool and you don't know what to do to be cool. And then there's a part where your parents are looking at you like, don't even care about that. It doesn't matter. Just be you and be comfortable in being you and be comfortable that they might laugh at you but they might cheer you on and there's others. And if you can do that, everybody notices. You can bring more people out of their shell. And I think completely, if you bring more people out of their shells and they're comfortable and confident, that's happiness. And that right there is what I want to surround myself with.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a gift to give to others. So I want to finish on burnout. Let's talk burnout because, I mean, you had a long career, 2 decades of the grind that you described because, yes, you found your mental skills and your tools that helped you maintain the success. But I can't imagine there weren't times when you just felt fried too. So what advice do you have for the listeners, the professionals that are feeling that way? I mean, we have an epidemic right now with burnout
Right.
in the workforce.
No, it does. It really does happen. No matter how much you can try to prepare, there can be a point when you push and you create these expectations or the environment has those expectations on you that you can feel that. And I think for me was to not feel guilty about stepping back or not feel guilty to ask for a breather. It's not going to disregard my strength. I think it creates a different type of strength, and you have to be able to accept that, yes, people might have a different opinion, but you have to adapt. And sometimes in adaptation, you need a break. And that then allows you to reset and then go further than just the constant put your feet to the ground and, go, 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 go. You can make larger strides if you're okay with asking for a break. And then during that break, try to at least put in some good effort. I mean, you just can't completely check out. But knowing that the break is for healing mentally, physically, and that you're going to come back, and having that belief you're going to come back a lot better. Because it is, you can see it. I want to say you probably see it physically first before you see it mentally. When everybody, can't sort of pull the weight that you want to see, you can see it on them. You can just feel it. And then mentally, I think that's where the cracks kind of happen. But it's the recognition. I believe when other people they have that feel, they can recognize it and acknowledge it and let them know it's okay. I think that's where you have to have the right type of people in your circle, the right type of leadership. That's a skill that can be developed. And I think that's where, if you have those people around you that notice it, it brings a better environment for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, Cole, as you know, the show is called Prevention Pioneers, right? And, Laura is obviously our host and founder of the show. We're partners in a business called Spirence, and Spirence is basically a online platform that was created to touch on a lot of the things that we talked about today. Mm-hmm. And it's a tool that so many people use. And it's funny because we're talking about education. Like everything you've talked about today is about education, right? It's about understanding that I'm a human being and I'm normal. It's about understanding that I'm okay to have bad days, right? And I'm not on a downward spiral. It's okay to understand that I can be vulnerable with friends in my close circle. And having, tools like that, like Spirence offers, is no different than having tools like you've had in your arsenal and you continue to grow. Mm-hmm. So thank you very much for sharing with us today on Prevention Pioneers, your experiences over the last 20 years.
No, thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
It's been fun. Today, we heard from Cole Hamels about what it takes to sustain success and great lessons that other leaders and professionals can use to protect their mental and emotional game. And if you like this content, please check out what we're doing at Spirence, www.spirencewellness.com, a preventative mental health platform for employers. Be sure to follow Prevention Pioneers on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen, and make sure you share with a colleague or friend.